Heroes of Fantasy Football Podcast.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Heroes of Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm your host, Matt High, riding solo tonight. We got a very, very important episode tonight. We're talking about the top waiver wire ads that you should be looking at for your roster this week. Week one, as we probably all expected, craziness ensued. Just kind of how fantasy football works. Glad to be back. It was just a rough week for a lot of star guys. Such as A.J. Brown and a couple other ones, to name a few. So let's just jump right into waivers here. All right, so first thing we're going to talk about, because it just broke about 10 minutes before I started recording this, so we have to address the elephant in the room. Tank Bigsby, former running back for the Jacksonville Jaguars, is now a Philadelphia Eagle. So a little bit of shakeup happened. ETN looked great last week. He's right now the unquestioned RB1 of that offense. We kind of all expected it to be a 50-50 timeshare, and after this week, I drafted Bigsby because I went hero RB in our draft. So I kind of needed him to do stuff, and didn't really do anything. So it's going to be very interesting. I don't know exactly what to think right now with the Eagles. I like the landing spot because the Eagles are a good offense, or a well-run team. But if Saquon doesn't get injured, or Bigsby ain't seeing the field. So this kind of reminds me of the Khalil Herbert trade from the Bears a couple years ago, where he was traded and he was expected to do things and fumbled immediately, and then that was the end of him. He actually just got cut today, too, off the practice squad. So I hope that's not the range of outcomes for him, but it's kind of a downhill thing for him unless, like I said, unless Saquon ends up getting injured, he's just going to be there. But this is really good news for ETN. He kind of doesn't really have that much competition. Bhayshul Tuten was a draft pick. I think he was a third, fourth rounder this year that was selected by the Jaguars. He got a little bit of run today, this past week, but nothing crazy. So I do expect this to be more of a 70-30 split at this point. I mean, last week ETN basically took everything. So I don't know if that is a good thing for Tuten. You should definitely pick him up. We're going to talk about him in a few minutes. But let's start off with the quarterback position. There was some craziness with quarterback. I know Brock Purdy is dealing with an injury, unsure if he's going to play. I expect him to suit up, but it's probably going to be just pain management. He's also got some other injuries around him, but we'll discuss that. Michael Penix is my first quarterback here, rostered in about 32% of leagues according to Yahoo. Next week, he gets the Vikings in Sunday Night Football. Had a pretty decent week. Not the best completion percentage, but, there was some wide receivers missing. Most notably, Darnell Mooney did not play the game. Drake London got banged up. Still ended up with a modest stat line, pretty good for fantasy. 27 for 42, 298 yards, a touchdown through the air, and then 6 rushes for 21 yards and a touchdown on the ground. So did kind of help you out in fantasy as far as the overall game. He didn't look the best, but I do think he's going to be in a better situation this week going against the Vikings. We're going to see it all. A lot of it is going to depend on if the wide receivers are healthy. So like Drake London, if Darnell Mooney's back, but I still think he's worth an ad this week. I would go probably you could probably get him for like $3 to $4 fab bid. I wouldn't be blowing the bank for him or blowing priority. He's just someone I think you should add just in case they, get on a hot streak. Because with Bijan Robinson ripping off 50-yard touchdown catches out of the backfield, that's going to be really good for Penix. Next up here is going to be Geno Smith, and man, he looked great. It's weird because the Raiders don't really have the best offensive line, and that's been my gripe against Geno Smith for so long. Just give him an offensive line. He's a good quarterback. He does a lot really well. He just never has the time to do it, But this week did pretty darn good. roster percentage is at 21% right now. Gets the LA Chargers, who I know just kind of beat up on the Chiefs a little bit, but overall stat line this week: 24 for 34, 362 yards, which is awesome. Touchdown, threw a pick, 2 rushes for 10 yards, so mostly negligible there, but still something that really helped you out for fantasy football. Last quarterback I want to discuss here is Aaron Rodgers. He's only rostered in 14% of leagues. Gets the Seahawks this week. 22 for 30, 244 yards, and 4 touchdowns in the air. This team wasn't really effective on the ground, which is something that I know the Steelers they want to be a ground and pound team and kind of beat you through the air after they set up, this is what we're doing. We're going to be a ground and pound team. We're going to set up play action, and then the quarterbacks do pretty well. They didn't really have to do it this week. It was a good game, against the Jets. It was kind of surprising that he had 4 touchdowns against the Jets defense, which is still a pretty good defense. But Aaron Rodgers is someone you should definitely look at for this week, especially the Seahawks. Their defense is not that great. They're going to be able to do whatever they want against the Seattle defense. So I think this will be more of the same for last week. I think you can repeat this very easily. Again, all these quarterbacks, I wouldn't really blow a lot of fab on. At most $4. I think you'd be able to get them. You might be able to put in. He might even go unclaimed depending on how your league is set up. They might be kind of just sitting there still after waivers run through, and you can get them off for free in free agency. So definitely take a look at that. But next up here is going to be an important position, the running backs. Now this is important for me, who has Tank Bigsby in a league as my RB2, because I went hero RB and drafted Chase Brown and then a bunch of wide receivers that didn't do too much this week. So we're fine. It's only week 1. Stay going. Keep going. First guy here I want to bring up is going to be Trey Benson. Now, didn't have a glorious stat line. That game was a little bit odd, but 39% roster, gets the Panthers this week, which should be very, very good. Look at what ETN just did to them this past week. He went 8 for 69, no scores, and then 1 for 6 yards, no scores on a target in the air. Again, he was one of my favorite, sleeper picks this year because James Conner is there, but James Conner he did the one thing he's never done last year, which is stay healthy for a full season. So I don't think this is going to happen again. I think he's going to miss some time, and he's someone, you might have to overpay a little bit. You probably have one more week where you don't have to overpay. So I would pay like a little bit extra, maybe like $8-9 in fab would be a good target to get him on your bench, or potentially if you need him, like maybe I do. That would be something you should definitely do, because I'd rather overpay today because that's an underpay tomorrow. Next guy, Dylan Sampson on the Cleveland Browns, 46% rostered. Gets the Ravens, which, yes, I know the Ravens, you hear that and you think, oh, wow, good defense. James Cook did pretty good against them last night, so that was a wild game. So 12 for 29, 8 for 64 on 8 targets. Out-touched Jerome Ford 20-7, which was the biggest stat line that you need to hear. He was running as the RB, the main running back. Like, it was him, and then Jerome Ford was sitting on the bench doing nothing. This is a shift. Now, I don't know if that was mostly because of the game script, because Jerome Ford isn't really the pass catcher, but still, he only got 7 touches, and Dylan Sampson ran the ball 12 times. This is a team that is going to sling the ball with Joe Flacco. They're not going to be able to run the ball effectively, most likely. So I think having Joe Flacco under center is going to be something that you're going to want to get the pass-catching running back, which in this case, Dylan Sampson seems to be kind of both, the main guy and also the pass catcher. So, sorry, Jerome Ford. Time in the sun might have burned the wings a little bit here. So, As I said at the top of the show, Bhayshul Tuten, 57% rostered. It's a little bit high for now, but that's also because he's a lot of people probably just saw like, oh hey, Tank Bigsby got traded. Let's go get him on my roster. So someone that you should definitely pick up because Etienne is another one who has a little bit of an injury riddled past where he can't really stay healthy for a full season. So this is just all. Most of the running backs this week are going to be guys that you should put on your bench because they're one injury away or they're getting a little bit extra work. You want to just kind of see it's worth it to get them now on your roster than wait a couple weeks when they either take over or someone gets injured. Because all of these guys I'm talking about right now, if the starter ahead of them gets injured, people are going to be dumping all of their fab to go get them because running backs are very hard to replace in your league, and especially ones that have the upside that some of these guys have. So please think ahead. If you got a guy that you didn't really want to draft, or maybe you didn't like what you saw this week, depending on who it is, you might want to look and see, would I rather have the potential lottery ticket, or do I want this guy just to sit on my bench for another week or two before I end up kicking him to the curb anyway? So just kind of look at your roster and see and adjust how that goes. Kendre Miller, someone I never thought I would be talking about again. Dennis Allen is gone from the Saints. Kellen Moore steps in. And this offense looks pretty good. It's Spencer Rattler didn't look awful. I mean, he still had some rough throws and all, but only 4% rostered and gets the 49ers this week. Last week, didn't do a whole lot. I mean, 5 for 24, no scores. But he could be in for a significant workload if Alvin Kamara, who is an older running back now, starts kind of falling off or having some little maintenance days scattered throughout the year. Maybe they decide to kind of hold him back from practice a little bit and give Kendre Miller a little bit more of a workload. This is someone I think that should be on rosters. 4% doesn't seem right to me. It should be way closer to like 40 to 50%. I know there's some rosters that are very, very deep, and he's probably on those, but and some are very shallow. If you're in an 8-team league, okay, you can keep him. You can keep him on the waivers, but in 12-team leagues, I think he should be rostered. DJ Giddens, 3% roster, gets the Broncos this week, 12 for 41, no scores. Did have a lot more work than I expected week one behind Jonathan Taylor. Part of that is probably because the Colts and Daniel freaking Jones blew the doors off the Dolphins. But still, someone, again, get him on the bench because he's cheap now. You can, if Jonathan Taylor goes down, this is 100% a fab dump because if the Colts are even okay, you're going to want someone that has a bulk share of the running back workload, and DJ Giddens profiles to be able to handle that as well. All right, moving on to wide receivers. We're ripping through this episode. First one is going to be Quentin Johnston. I mean, 9% rostered. I was shocked when I saw that. I know he had a drop problem last year or the past 2 years. I felt every one of those. I've been ridiculed by all of my league mates because of his drop problems. But he wasn't really dropping too much last week. He was catching a lot. 5 for 79 and 2 scores on 7 targets. Only missed 2 of them. That's pretty good for him. He's a clear red zone threat with Herbert, and if he doesn't get the drop bug, he could be a steal on waivers this week. You can get him. I'd probably be willing to throw at least like $10 to $15 fab on him because if they're good, if the Chargers are for real this season, I think this is going to be one of the times where you're going to want him on your roster. Keenan Allen, I want to throw him out there too. He's actually 50% rostered. He went 7 for 68 and score on 10 targets. Wasn't a great defense. It's not going to be a great defense going against the Raiders. So I think Herbert's going to look to him a ton, and it's going to be worth it. So either one of these guys, like Keenan Allen, I'd probably put a little bit lower on the priority, just because I'm a little hesitant with an older wide receiver. We've seen this in the past. It doesn't work out very well for a lot of these guys once they hit a certain age. You'll get sporadic touchdown weeks and things like that, but consistency is usually not always there. And I think, unfortunately, as great as Keenan Allen is, I loved watching him play. I still love watching him play. It's just, I don't know if I can bank on his consistency moving forward with an offense that has, Quentin Johnston and Omarion Hampton and everybody. So it's going to be very, very interesting. Lad McConkey, I mean, he didn't do much last week, so I know that's going to swing back the other way. The pendulum's going to swing a little bit. So I expect one of these wide receivers, between McConkey, Johnston, and Keenan Allen to, one has a good week, the other one maybe not so much, the other two. So, all right, next one here is Darnell Mooney, 53% rostered, so a little bit high, but just wanted to throw him out there because he didn't play last week. He was injured, dealing with a shoulder injury. Gets the Vikings this week. If London misses time, and he's dealing with a shoulder injury now, he left the game. At the end, they're going to need a wide receiver to step up. And I think Mooney, if he plays, if they clear him and he's full go, he's done it before. He's been the wide receiver one of the Bears. And I think it's going to be an interesting position to put him in. Last year he did pretty good, and I know he wasn't the wide receiver one, but I think he can also be that if he's called upon. I think I like the talent. I've always enjoyed watching him play, and I've always admired his talent on the field, and I think he's an underrated wide receiver. So definitely someone, chances are he's on a roster, but if he's not, if you can see him, if he's there, go scoop him up and just kind of wait it out. He might not play this week, and if that's the case, then the Michael Penix pick. Forget everything I said, but definitely throw him in there. Wan'Dale Robinson is someone that just gets a ton of targets. Russell Wilson is starting for the Giants this week for some strange reason, and I'm assuming we just hate things that are good. Like, I'm not a Jackson Dart fan, but at this point, let's see what he has. I loved Jameis Winston. The idea of Jameis Winston coming into the Giants was very exciting, and sadly that door got shut in my face. So here we are, Russell Wilson, Wan'Dale Robinson, 20% roster. Gets the Cowboys this week, 6 for 55 on 8 targets. Nothing crazy, but Russell was looking his way. He has the short underneath routes that are, just kind of gimmies almost, and in a PPR league, that's gonna rack up pretty good. So I definitely think he's worth a roster add. You could probably get him for free. I'm putting a $0 or $1 bid. Now, I don't think many people are going to be shooting for him on the waivers, but you might get the one Giants fan that's like, oh, Wan'Dale, yeah, woo. It ain't going to be me, but, someone definitely you should take a look at. Josh Palmer, one of the heroes of last night's Monday Night Football game, 25% roster, gets the Jets this week, 5 for 61 on 9 targets. He was second. Most importantly, though, he was second on the team in targets, right behind Keon Coleman. So this is a good offense. I think everyone agrees the Bills are pretty good at football. Josh Allen, really good at football. Well-run franchise now. You just want good players. You want good players on good teams. And Josh Palmer has always been a pretty decent player. I wouldn't say he's a great player, but he's someone that gets the job done. When he was with the Chargers, he had a couple weeks where he was a go-to guy. He stepped up, and he has the ability to do so. And I think the Bills are going to need that this year. And this week, it's the Jets. I don't think he's getting, Sauce Gardner covering him. So I think he should break through for a little bit. Not going to put a touchdown guarantee on him, but could be there. Cedric Tillman, 28% roster, gets the Ravens. 5 for 52 on 8 targets. The Browns are going to be down a lot this year. They don't have, their defense is pretty good. We watch them kind of shut down the Bengals, but they also can't really run the ball, so they're going to have to do a lot through the air. And Cedric Tillman is just one of those guys where he was kind of a sleeper this year. We didn't know who was going to be the wide receiver 1, 2, 3, with everybody there. Judy pretty much was the one, but there was still a little bit of everyone was up in the air about who's a wide receiver 2 and so on. So Cedric Tillman stepped up last week. He did pretty good. 8 targets, caught 5 of them. It's a typical Joe Flacco stat line where things get a little weird. But I think he's someone that it's definitely someone I want to put on my roster, even just on my bench to see what happens. The Ravens are going to be good. So they're going to put up points, and it's going to force the Browns to throw. They're not going to be able to run as effectively this week, especially. They're going to have to look through the air, and I don't think Jerry Jeudy alone is going to be able to do it. David Njoku is there, so he's a good red zone threat, but Cedric Tillman does a lot decently. So I think this is going to be one of the times to get him pretty cheap. You're probably talking $4 to $5 on Fab, and that would be kind of it. I could have put this guy higher, but I'm still a little kind of nervous with the whole Chiefs situation. Hollywood Brown is 25% rostered, gets the Eagles this week, had himself a day. 10 for 99, no scores, but 16 targets. That is awesome. That's what you love to see. Now, I know the total numbers are kind of inflated because that was a pretty back and forth game where both quarterbacks were trying to get stuff done. Just unfortunately, the Chiefs could not get the W. Or fortunately, if you don't like the Chiefs, sometimes it's nice. So Worthy and Rice are out. It's gonna be Brown and Kelsey. They're gonna be the main focus of the offense. I don't know if they're gonna be able to effectively run the ball against the Eagles. Against that defensive line. If Jalen Carter is not suspended, that's gonna be a problem for them. So I don't know if Isaiah Pacheco and Kareem Hunt are gonna be able to really demand a lot of attention. I think they're going to have to focus through the air, do a full-on aerial assault. And this is where Patrick Mahomes is going to have to pull a rabbit out of a hat again because he's going to have to get stuff done. It's going to be a good game. Last year's Super Bowl matchup, I think it's going to be fun. But we'll have to see what happens. So Hollywood Brown, he just got a ton of targets, and he's good. He's back from injury. He was dealing with a little bit this offseason, but he looked great to me. So 16 targets is something you want to chase. Wide receivers, I always want to chase targets. You get them, I want them. So, all right, now everyone's favorite position, the tight ends, something that I really, really need this week. For those of you who have not seen yet, you probably have, but George Kittle is out for a couple weeks with a hamstring injury. So let me get it out of the way first. I apologize. It is my fault that George Kittle's injured because every year I draft him in one league or more, he gets injured and misses multiple games. Whenever I skip him, that's when he usually breaks an ankle but still scores like a 60-yard touchdown against me and then's out for like a week. So I apologize to everybody who has drafted Kittle. I feel your pain. I am in your situation trying to figure out a replacement. So there's a couple good ones, luckily, this week that I think are very worth adding. The first one has to be Juwan Johnson on the Saints. He's only 2% rostered, gets the 49ers this week. 8 for 76 on 11 targets. He's a clear favorite for Spencer Rattler, who threw a career-high 46 passes in week 1. This is the Kellen Moore experience. He wants to just air it out. A lot of fast-paced plays. We're going to just get things done. He has a game plan, and they're going to hit everything. Juwan Johnson is a clear target for Spencer Rattler. I don't see how it doesn't get much better. Chris Olave went in and out of the game last week a little bit. A chest injury. I think he was out for like a series or two. Came back in, so he's fine, but Juwan Johnson still demanded the targets whether he was on the field or off the field. So definitely someone I feel safer with. You probably need to bid a little bit. You might need to go up to about like $15 to $20 for him, especially if the George Kittle manager is looking for a tight end, or everyone's looking for a tight end except for like 2 people. Even Brock Bowers kind of had an injury, a knee injury. So you might be fighting with extra people that you didn't expect to have to fight for. So Juwan Johnson, though, I saw enough. I think he's going to be pretty good the rest of the season, and I'd be willing to, put him in my lineup and just see what happens. Pat Freiermuth here on the Steelers, 11% roster, gets the Seahawks this week, 3 for 28 on 3 targets. Look, tight ends are pretty bad. A lot of people have bad tight ends, but you could do a lot worse, I think. If he gets a little bit more involved in the roster with Aaron Rodgers, who has he's usually had a decent tight end output. Tyler Conklin at points last year did pretty good. I mean, he's had tight ends in the past that have done very well. So I think it's just an identity that he tries to look for. So we'll see. Brenton Strange, 22% roster, gets the Bengals this week. 4 for 59 on 4 targets, so he caught all of them. They're probably going to need to do a little bit more against the Bengals. It's going to be kind of a shootout. So being that involved and catching all the passes from Trevor Lawrence, I think that's going to be something that we're going to have to monitor. And like I said, I mean, this could be a shootout. This could be a really big game. Both defenses are iffy. Both offenses are pretty good. I know we didn't really see a lot of it last week. It's mainly on the passing game with the Jaguars, but the running game did pretty good. So they didn't really need to pass the ball as much. I know everyone's upset about Brian Thomas Jr. not really doing a whole lot, except that one touchdown he bailed out. But I think it's going to be just fine. For tight ends, I'll pick it up with Brenton Strange. Dalton Schultz on the Texans, 6% roster, gets the Bucs this week, 3 for 28 on 5 targets. He led the Texans in targets last week. That's more than Nico, more than everybody. So, Kate Stover, the other tight end, broke his foot, so he's going to miss some time. So now he's got the entire tight end room basically to himself. So, again, you chase targets, you look at opportunity. Dalton Schultz has the opportunity to, again, be someone we're really looking for and have a great time with. So, Dalton Schultz, just go get him. Yeah, a couple bucks, max $4, probably $5 if someone in your league likes him. We'll see. Last guy here is Harold Fannin Jr., 2% roster, gets the Ravens this week. He's a rookie tight end for the Cleveland Browns, 7 for 63, 9 targets. Pretty surprising stat line for a rookie tight end, but could be someone that gets integrated into the offense a little bit more. As I said, I think you're going to need to do a little bit more through the air this week. So he could be someone that you're really looking for a little bit extra oomph in your roster. Could be someone that helps you out a little bit. Now, defensive streamers of the week. I have the Rams up first, going against a rookie quarterback. Yes, I know Cam Ward, first overall pick, but still a rookie, still a quarterback. Rams have a decent defense. They get to the quarterback. 27% rostered, so they're mostly available. You can probably get them pretty cheap. Next one is the Los Angeles Chargers. They're 50% rostered going against the Raiders. This could be somewhat of a shootout, but I expect the Chargers defense to kind of hold their own for the most part. So I'll probably force some turnovers. Geno Smith does throw picks. There are some fumbles. So I think even if it is a decently high-scoring game or back and forth, I think the Chargers defense should be able to, handle their own and get a little bit extra for them. So the Packers, who just got Micah Parsons, and we saw what that just did to the Detroit Lions, basically didn't let them do anything at all. So they get the Commanders this week, and I know we're all excited about Bill. We're excited about Jane Daniels and Terry McLaurin, and some people are excited about Deebo Samuel. I don't care. The Packers defense is legit. They're good. They're going to be able to get to the quarterback. They're going to be able to do a whole lot against them. They're going to force turnovers. They're going to do basically whatever the Packers want to do. This is going to be one of the years where it could come down to one player switching teams to get a team really deep into the playoffs and potentially into the Super Bowl. And I think a lot of the favorite right now is the Packers for what they can kind of do. They're basically well-rounded on both sides of the football, and their defense is just going to be good. If they can stay healthy, they might be a team, a defense you want to get and just play every week and don't care who they're playing. They can play the Chiefs, they can play the Bills, Ravens, whoever, and you might still want to play them. Every year there's a defense that does that where you don't care. It's like, all right, I'm set it and forget it, and you don't got to worry about it. That might be the defense this year. And the last one, because why not? Cowboys, 7% roster. They go against the Giants and Russell Wilson, who put up 6 total points last week. Yeah, I don't care if they don't have Micah Parsons. It's Russell Wilson. It's the Giants. You target them. They're going to be a team to target this year. Until we see signs of life on the offensive side of the football. I know Cam Scatabo was pretty good. He ran over a couple guys. That was cool to watch. Malik Neighbors is really good, but it's Russell. If Russell Wilson's there, it's going to be dangerous, pun intended. So that's going to do it for the defenses. So, all right. That is the top waiver wire additions for week 2. I appreciate everyone watching, following along. If you could do us a huge, huge favor, really appreciate it even more. If you could like, share, and subscribe. All that stuff, engage the algorithm, really helps us get out there, really helps us, do more of these. We love talking about fantasy football. We've seen a lot. We've done a lot. We want to bring all that knowledge to everybody. So any little bit that you guys can do to help us out would be much, much appreciated. We'll be doing some giveaways this year and doing some roster reviews and having some fan questions and stuff. So if anyone has any questions for us, you can go to our website. I will put that below. And you can also follow us on socials. And every Sunday, we're going to be feeling it just with you. We're right alongside you, feeling all the pain, the suffering, and the happiness and joy, sadness, and all that, all mixed in together into this wonderful game we call fantasy football. So for everyone here, appreciate it. We love all of you. And we'll catch you on Thursday when we do our start sit show. All right, everyone. So long.